Let's talk now to Sir Geoffrey Clifton-Brown, Conservative MP for the North Cotswold area, because, Sir Geoffrey, we've been given a report by the investigators of the NHS, and we are told that the NHS is not only not fit for purpose, but it's sort of getting worse, and nobody's doing anything about fixing it. Whatever happened to Wes Streeting?
Well, good morning, Mike. Great to be on your show again. As you say, I'm chairman of the PAC, Public Accounts Committee, and we've just produced a very critical report on the NHS. As we all know, as you've said in your introduction, and indeed the government has admitted, Wes Streeting has admitted, the NHS is broken. Yeah. So we've come up with a number of tough recommendations as to help the government as to how they might fix it. And I suppose the one thing they ought to do more than anything else is improve their productivity. Instead of keep asking for more money every time they get into a problem, actually use the money that they've got, but use it more effectively. So up till 2020, they were running at about 0.6% efficiency, and it's dropped considerably since then, partly because of the pandemic, but they've never really recovered properly, as we all know, from the pandemic. So they should increase their productivity, and that's nothing to do with the hard-working doctors and nurses. It's the way it's run. And then the second thing they must do is to actually try and spend more money on prevention. We all know if you can prevent people getting into the health service, it's a lot cheaper and it's a lot better for the patients. And instead of what they're doing at the moment, they're cutting the grant for prevention. So that's another thing they must do. And the third thing they must do is to help the local organisations, the integrated healthcare boards locally, the doctors, the dentists and everything else, and give them money at an earlier time. At the moment, they're giving it several months after the year end. But if they give them earlier, as local authorities do, then those boards can plan properly and provide a good service. So there's a lot of things in there. We could help the National Health Service, and by goodness, it needs helping.
Well, the big question, of course, is exactly what will happen after this report comes out. You know, will the NHS take any notice of it? Will they actually do anything about it? Will they action any of the suggestions that you've got? A piece of The Sun today on page 17, which I think we're looking at right now, shocking picture exposes the depth of the A&E crisis. It's a picture from Ashford in Kent, the William Harvey Hospital, and you've just got line after line after line after line of patients in the corridors of the hospital, because there isn't any room to put them in a proper ward or to see them in any way, shape or form in A&E. Everything's full.
Well, that's quite shocking, Mike. It really is. And as you say, will anything happen? Well, the process now is, as far as we're concerned, is we produce a report which we have with these quite tough recommendations. Yes. They have to constitutionally respond within 6 weeks as to whether they accept these recommendations or not. Right. And if they do accept them, we'll follow them up to make sure that they're doing them. If they don't accept them, we'll look very hard at the reasons why they've not accepted them, and then we'll, if necessary, have them back before the Public Accounts Committee to account for themselves. But as I say, they released a fairly unusually a press release at a peak because they didn't like our tough recommendations. So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see what happens as a result of our report. But we won't leave this subject. We'll keep, as it were, knocking on their door to make sure they really start to actually transform the health service. And there are ways it could be done. And for example, the last government gave them £3.6 billion to transform their technology. And that would have a revolutionising effect in the health service. There's still far too much paper. They're still using faxes. If they stopped all that and did it efficiently electronically, as, for example, Denmark has done, we really could transform the health service. So there are things they can do, but they've got to have the will to want to do it.
Absolutely. And I've been hearing these stories about them using fax machines for years now, and why on earth they haven't changed that practice, I've no idea. But can't you also rope in Wes Streeting into this conversation to see whether he's got something to say about your report, whether he's got something to suggest about how they should action it?
Well, I hope you'll look at our report carefully, because it's critical for a reason. It's critical because we want the health service to change and get better. So we're actually trying to help Wes Streeting and the government. We all, whatever our political colours, want to see the health service succeed. We want it to provide a better service for all of us. So I hope the government will take our report very seriously and act on its recommendations.
Yeah, well, that would be nice, wouldn't it? And I mean, in terms of the way that this government is generally going, I mean, we've got a big set piece today with Rachel Reeves getting up to talk about growth. I don't think anyone in the world of common sense believes a word of what she says about trying to make growth happen, when we know that coming out in April is a massive blow to small businesses and to big businesses as well. The minimum wage is going up, which is no bad thing in and of itself. But in addition to that, we've also got the national insurance increases that are going on, and an awful lot of business people are telling me that they will not be able to survive this year.
Well, I agree with that. I think that small businesses are in a very difficult position at the moment, and they are, after all, the engine of growth of this country. They make up 90% of all business collectively. So if you don't help small businesses, it's going to make it much more difficult to actually get this growth. So let's see what Rachel Reeves can do to help them. As you say, she's put a huge if you keep sucking money out of a business in tax, it hasn't got the money to invest and actually perform better and better in the future. So I think the government do have a problem. But as I say, in this particular report, we want to make sure that the huge amount of money that the health service already gets is spent better, more productively, on behalf of all of us, the patients.
Well, that would be nice, wouldn't it? So Geoffrey Clifton-Brown, Conservative MP for North Cotswolds, thank you very much indeed. Also, of course, a member of the Public Accounts Committee, which has come out with some revelatory information